All right, we are back to look at the weaknesses of Wes Lawrence's Dynasty roster, of which there are not many. I actually think a better practice for this video would be to answer some of the questions that Wes asked in his email here. So he did a little extra credit, kind of threw out some thoughts on the roster, what he thinks or what he's thinking, some potential trades, and some questions about what he should do next. So as you can tell, with someone like a roster like this, you'd imagine they are thinking a few steps ahead. So we are going to look at those. One thing I will say, it's like having Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow kind of locked in there as your super flex quarterbacks, huge deal. Huge deal. And having two depth quarterbacks behind them, even in a 10-team league, is going to be very valuable once we get to the mid-season range. I guess you could critique this crew, but the way I kind of view it is, if you are dealing with this trio, they're all pretty volatile. If Rashad Penny, comes into the year and is the clear starter, then that's going to be annoying if Cam Akers isn't fully healthy. Same thing with J.K. Dobbins. But the way I kind of look at it is, you have three running backs here, all second-round draft picks in the NFL draft, all players who were basically either eventually set up to be the featured running backs in their offense or were prior to injury. So while we have a lot of volatility in this depth chart, I do expect at least one of these guys to emerge as a top 20 to 22 to 25 running back in 2022, and with top 12 potential. I mean, we all thought Cam Akers and J.K. Dobbins were interesting pieces before injuries last year. If Rashad Penny goes down, then you have the other case for Kenneth Walker, which is, the positive one where he breaks out, gets featured touches. So it feels murky, but I'm actually pretty confident in that trio to create an every week starter. And then once you get that every week starter, the bench guys don't matter as much because you have all these flex spots. It's only start 2 wide receivers. So your bench is going to be all Andrews, or your flex is going to be all Andrews, Moore, and Sutton. You could add a little more depth here, but I mean, we're really picking nits here. Alec Pierce, Terrace Marshall, Calvin Ridley is a nice end of the roster trio, so I'm not too worried about that. I guess one other critique would be Mark Andrews. You could probably package him with a quarterback to a quarterback needy team, and maybe wait till the mid-season range to try to figure this out. But try to offer a quarterback and a tight end together to maybe get a Jamar Chase or something like that. Consolidate a little bit in this 10-team league, or maybe get, I don't even know. I don't even know who you'd want at the top here, because a lot of the top running backs right now are sort of win now based guys. So I think this is a really good setup. But let's get into some of these questions. Should I trade Akers near the start of the season? Personally, I would not, especially with this setup. As I mentioned, you have the 3 gambles. Expect 1 to hit this season. And then also, a guy in the Rams offense looked bad in the playoffs last year, but was also going against some brutal run defenses. So those bad box scores aren't as surprising to me as maybe they are for others. Next question here. How long do I hang on to Pitts and Andrews? I would be diligent in trying to find a deal for Andrews. I would keep Pitts. I think that's a guy you want him on your roster for the rest of his career. But Andrews, coming off an immense year, should be a nice flex play for you. But with this roster setup, I'd be trying to get a guy like Jamar Chase, and then, have Chase and Mike Williams vying for that wide receiver 2 spot. That would be optimal. Well, actually, Chase would be the wide receiver 1, so you'd have Lamb and Mike Williams vying for that wide receiver 2 spot. So I would really look to package Andrews with, one of your depth, maybe DJ Moore or something like that. Make it a blockbuster and find an elite something, because you have the setup to sort of do a 2-for-1. Most of the time, I'm the guy trying to do trade the one player for the two, but in this situation with this roster, I think we can do that. Do I handcuff Taylor in Subway? I mean, you can grab Nyheim Hines, but I think with this roster, you should be pretty set. I mean, if something happens to Taylor, I don't think that's going to ruin your chances for 2022. It just might lower the playoff odds. But you still have a great setup here. Again, maybe you want to trade Andrews for another high-end running back if you're feeling uncomfortable there. That would be a reasonable thought process, but overall, I think you're fine at running back right now. Do I trade Winston or Ryan to a needy team? I would say yes, but also there might be a little added value there if you wait to the season. Maybe Ryan or Winston gets off to a hot start, and then you can dump him off to a QB needy team. The price will be higher, and things will be grand. So yeah, maybe think about that mid-season, especially if you don't need the fourth guy anymore. Maybe you can get a future first and continue to build out this depth. So that's kind of my thought there. Do I trade for Henderson? That's intriguing to me. I'd be fine with grabbing Darrell Henderson. Rather than grabbing Taylor, maybe grabbing Henderson and kind of hedging that Akers bet is the play here. We saw Henderson be reliable last year when he was healthy. That first month and a half, he was scoring like 15 to 20 points a game. So, yeah, I like that play. That's a fun play and kind of shores up everything here without breaking the bank. So I do like that idea there. Improve the bench. I mean, again, beyond, Trey Sermon, Jeff Wilson, and Mike Davis, AJ Green, you just got to churn the waiver wire. Or, I mean, you can trade one of your crown jewels for a bunch of depth, but I think you're honestly in a good spot here. You don't necessarily need, 1 through 28 to all be top-end players. You have top-end players, and with these starting requirements, if there were more flex spots, I'd think about maybe adding more depth, but with this type of setup, you don't need immense depth. You just need studs, of which you have, young studs who will last a while, which you have, and then, a little depth behind them. So filling out the back of this roster is maybe a fun side mission for you, kind of like in the video game. You're going on a side mission right now. Churn the waiver wire. Try to make some trades for maybe trade a future third for a guy you like that's a post-type sleeper or something like that. Maybe trade for a young guy or something, but I wouldn't go too crazy here. You have enough assets. And then would I trade Walker for Olave? I would not. I think you have plenty of depth at wide receiver. You only need to start 2. And you have DJ Moore, who's probably a flex. Then you have Sutton, who's not even going to be starting. So then the question remains, are you wasting years of these players' career? Is Sutton just going to be sitting on your bench? So, yeah, that's my thought there. Winston for Penny plus Jalen Tolbert. So again, if you're going to do a handcuff, I love that play. I think Winston is worth more than Penny and Tolbert, personally. But those are the types of deals I think would make sense for this roster. I might shoot for a little higher hopes than Tolbert. But yeah, Winston for maybe Penny and a future second and Tolbert or something like that. I'd want a little more. Just because it is a starting quarterback in a super flex league. So I don't think you're getting quite enough there. But yeah, if he adds some sweeteners to the pot, I could definitely make that work for me. In 2023, number 2 for Darrell Henderson. it feels like a little too much to me. I'd rather use that second on Penny, personally, but I wouldn't. A second's a little more. I'd want more. If I'm trading my future second for Henderson, I'd want something else. Maybe a future third. So Henderson and a future third for 2023 second, something like that. So you're moving down like 10 spots or 8 spots. Yeah, that's probably more what I would do. And then Madison for Hines. No. Nope. Hold Madison. Make that Dalvin Cook owner sweat. Maybe he gives in and sweetens the pot for you. Dalvin is certainly an injury-prone guy. So, yeah, that's my thoughts there. Wes, great roster, and I think you're gonna have a pretty good 2022 and beyond.